Well, communists are, of course, political toadstools. The toxicity of these toadstools has long been proven and is well known. And once these mushrooms, these red mushrooms, manage to poison millions and keep almost 3 generations in a state of ideological paralysis, for those interested, communists still exist. They walk around and even periodically gather at CPRF Congress. But the communists carefully preserve and guard their toxicity, their poisonousness. But today, of course, the CPRF is a motley bunch. And besides the usual Leninist fanatics, it includes all kinds of deadly mushrooms. And in this party basket, there are hallucinogens, emetics, and agents that trigger psychosis. Here, whatever the soul desires, that's what you'll get. It is probably for this very reason that the Kremlin doesn't remove the party from the national menu, but continues to feed that part of the population with communists, their ideas, and their slogans, those who are either already deep in dementia due to age or are nostalgic for the USSR. Just so you know, in case you didn't, the main mushroom among the communists is still Gennady Zyuganov. He's already about 100 years old, but he still clings tightly to the throne of the Red Boss. And everyone is completely fine with that since he's long reached a state of absolute senile dementia. The Central Committee, the party's Central Committee, is selected with the consideration that there shouldn't be a strong contrast, just a sequential, that there isn't a strong contrast with Zyuganov's condition and intellectual level. However, this gathering of senile old men who have come together for a congress at the presidential administration's sanatorium, of course, this gathering of senile old men needs supervision, needs guardianship. Well, obviously, they're not going to storm the Winter Palace without waiting in line or without ticket. But they might make a bit of a mess out of sheer foolishness. That's why the chief architect of Putinism, Comrade Kirienko, arrived at the Congress to remind the mushrooms of the rules of conduct. The mushrooms obediently nodded their caps. Well, it probably goes without saying that the Communist Party of the Russian Federation, as is customary these days, are fans of the special military operation of war, genocide, the occupation of Ukraine, as well as all sorts of repressions and the Russian invasion of Europe. They really want that too. Well, just take a look. It's a ghastly sight, but nevertheless, you have to steel your heart and see it. Moreover, the communists have managed to clash in a deadly battle with the Orthodox. Orthodox fanatics on the Spas television channel made some kind of offensive little film about the adventures of Lenin's dummy and the urgent need to dispose of that dummy as soon as possible. The film turned out to be completely nonsensical, but as they say, the people love it. It fully demonstrates the intensity of Orthodox hatred toward the leader of the proletariat and, in general, toward the entire Communist Party of the Russian Federation. This absolutely trivial question of where Lenin's corpse is located is elevated there to something sacred, a matter of utmost importance. It's all taken very seriously there. And in response, all these cephalophores of the Communist Party decided to launch a red communist torpedo at the Orthodox, declaring the film, its creators, and the television company that made it foreign agents. And this intention was announced at the party congress. And in general, these red mushrooms have gotten really fired up, demanding that people be prosecuted, judged, and imprisoned for any anti-Soviet activity, including jokes about Brezhnev. And their leader, Gina, was up there on the presidium, burping, growling, and convulsing. The party youth are those who are 65 and older, trying on Budyunovkas. And some of the Congress delegates, yes, they demanded that Lenin's mummy be brought to the meeting after all. First, for a group photo, for some hugs, and maybe even a waltz at the banquet, they tapped out a telegram from the mausoleum. But in the end, it all came down to the communists canceling Khrushchev's curses against Stalin, overturning all the Congress resolutions, and restoring the good name of a man who killed 20 million people. But let me tell you, you shouldn't expect the conflict between the communists and the Orthodox schizos to grow into anything more than mutual barking at each other online. Strictly speaking, neither side really has any serious fighting potential, and it's unlikely they're even capable of a proper brawl, say, in the corridors of Ostankino. Well, the communists in general have trained the media to expect that once a month they splash the monthly ramblings of the elder Zyuganov into the news. But this doesn't really impress anyone. And despite these fountains of red anger, so far the Orthodox have been much more successful at pushing their nonsense. Because the people have become so astonishingly degraded that about 70% of the population has been completely switched over to a mode of primitive, archaic, pre-logical consciousness. And this nonsense about zombies from the mausoleum who suck the strength, luck, happiness, and military success out of the country, this really resonates with all these cave dweller minds. Well, I just can't help but to respond to the question. Today is George W. Bush's birthday, and people are asking for my opinion. First of all, George W. Bush couldn't care less about my opinion, but he's an excellent president, really a model of a truly Western wise and pragmatic politician. Of course, he doesn't quite match Reagan in terms of charisma and wit, but he's excellent, truly excellent. And it's worth noting that George W. Bushwell, Bush Sr., made a mistake. He was also quite good, but he made a mistake called provide hope. Remember the Bush legs. Back then, for just a couple of train cars of Bush legs, Russia could have traded away all its nuclear weapons. But unfortunately, he missed that opportunity. And as for the fact that Stalin has been fully and officially rehabilitated, there's no need to worry about that either, because the communists could just as easily rehabilitate anyone they want. At the next World Russian People's Council, the Russian Orthodox Church could declare the theory of evolution or Einstein's calculations to be mistaken. None of this has any effect on reality whatsoever. All these resolutions are nothing more than intra-party or intra-church masturbation. And we definitely won't waste our time on all this nonsense.